All right. We're going to ask everybody to keep their microphones on mute, if you will. If we have time at the end, we will take some questions, although you see a chat bar at the very bottom, and you can put your questions in there. First off, let me say it's great to see a lot of the faces of friends and folks I've worked with over the years here. It's also a real pleasure, Ralph, to bring you along for us to present this very special conference and seminar sponsored by Benztown. When I first joined Cumulus in 2011, we started talking about analytics and what we needed to do to have someone to be able to look at our product. One of the program directors that we interviewed for a top 10 market job actually sent me an analysis of the station that we were considering hiring him for. And when I saw the analysis, I called him immediately and said, "Where did you get this? I mean, this is like looking behind the curtain. We're seeing the Wizard of Oz here. Where did this come from?" And he shared that Ralph Cipolla had created a program that led to him using it to analyze not only his station, but the competition. And that started it. Reached out to Ralph. It was 2015 when we were able to bring him into Cumulus. And what you're about to see in many ways was a secret weapon for us at Cumulus. But it's more than that. It allows you to stop guessing and start winning. You know, there was a time when program directors sat between two radios and wrote down everything that happened on either of the two stations. And that's how we figured out what our competition was doing. Although, even with the assistance of drugs, it was difficult to stay awake for 24 hours and capture everything. And what you're going to see today will show you how your station can be even more aware than you possibly thought about what's coming out of your speakers, what people are hearing on smart speakers, what people are getting online, what's over the air, and that of your competition. And so Ralph was our secret weapon that led to us having 30 months of year over year increased ratings. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the program directors because they did an amazing job. But this tool that you're about to see today is one that should provide you with some walkaway that you can use to start to improve your station or maintain dominant ratings if that's what you have. And it's about the music and the content that you air. And so please, Ralph, let me welcome you, and perhaps you can tell us a little bit about you as a programmer and an analyst before we dig into these two programs.
Oh, great. Thanks, Mike. Everybody can hear me okay? Fine?
Yes, got you.
Yeah. Well, I give Mike a lot of credit, other than being one of my mentors. He was a visionary. I mean, I was out there trying to hawk my software. And just as the business was starting to take off, Mike said, "Hey, you know what? We just want all of you. I mean, come work for the company. We'll create a position for you." And I became VP of analytics for the company. And that was just some of the best years of my professional life, because Mike saw the Moneyball essence of, what I was out there trying to pitch about efficiency and about, how they say you only use 10% of your brain. It's like the data that we pay for. We only use a small percentage of it. I'm not sure we use all of that correctly. So this is, I was a math major and a science guy. And I walked into the college radio station one day and thought, "Oh, wow, this is cool." And then it was all downhill from there. Program director in Jacksonville, and then Buffalo, my hometown, which was very exciting, and then Jacksonville, and then 10 years at the helm of WCSX in Detroit, working for Greater Media. And our consultant was the brilliant Fred Jacobs. And one day Fred said, "Hey, you want to come work for me?" I thought, hey, strange hotel rooms and airline food, what's not to love? So 10 years doing that. And then it was at that point that I really saw the power of data. That, right around the time that Billy Beane was doing what he was doing over at the Oakland A's, and people were kind of going, "Come on," But that's when I sat down at my kitchen table, went off on my own. I'm a programmer. I'm not a computer guy, but I learned how to code because I wanted to make what I envisioned a reality. and I started getting it out there, getting people interested. And then one day encountered Mike, who said, wow, this is cool. And he allowed me to really create and build and experiment. And it was a good run. Things happened. We all know what happened over the last year and a half, and I found myself out on my own again, and thought it was a great opportunity to kind of reboot and rebuild the new version of AirPlay GPS, and also create something new designed to analyze the content strategy and placement, and that's called Spot GPS. So you're going to see a little bit of those today as we talk about some of the things that we think are important. Yeah.
Let's start there and talk about that AirPlay GPS and Spot GPS.
Yeah.
If you'll open it up for us, give us that feel for what it is that we see with these tools and how we can apply them.
Well, what you're seeing here is Spot GPS, and we all know, especially in the PPM markets, how important it is to have a content management placement plan. We're all playing the PUR game. What this does is takes Media Monitor's data and ingests it up to 9 stations, okay, head to head, side by side, as you can see here. 7 consecutive days from 6 a.m. Monday all the way down to midnight on a Sunday. And it breaks it down to minute by minute content events. So what you can see here as you scroll through a day is everything that occurred at every minute of the day. And you can see not just your station, but what's happening simultaneously in your cluster, with your sister stations, with your competitors, and anybody in an adjacent format lane that's even in the conversation with regards to, hey, are we playing music when they're playing spots, and vice versa, and everything. So over here, what we've got is the ability to color code every content event type. There's just 3. C is commercials. That's any recorded commercial. You can see the commercial, the title, the length of it, music, a song, or other, which is talk, service elements, contesting, live endorsements, promos, sweepers, anything that's not a C or an M is an O, okay? And over here on this side, what I do is for the particular market is I bring in the local PUR data. Now for a station, it might be 18 to 49, it might be 35 to 54. In this case, we just got 25, 54 adults, men and women. And what you see here is the rating for the quarter hour. And this number here is the rank. There are 52 quarter hours between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday, Friday. And so this is telling us, giving us some context. And so, 6 to 6:15 a.m., as we all know, it's pretty consistent across all the markets. It's the least listened to quarter hour of the entire week between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. And so what you can see here is how your content is placed relative to the listening levels by all the key demos, okay? And everything that you're going to see now, everything you're going to see next flows from here. So,
well, let me just interrupt for a second. So we're able to see, based on the information you upload into the program, you're able to see which quarter hours had the biggest audience, that is most meters and used, which do not. And so I get the advantage to that. Show us a little bit on this screen. If you were one of these stations, what would you be looking at?
Well, I mean, think about it. You have a plan, okay? You've sat down and you've said, hey, here's what the PUR data looks like for the market. So obviously I want to emphasize the exposure of my music in quarter hours where the listening is highest within a day part. I want to perhaps play some competitive chess games and pre-stop my competitor. I want to, practice the PPM crediting best practices. And like in this example here, this station is straddling the quarter hour boundary, splitting the pane of this stop set, as you will, across the bottom, across the second quarter hour and the third quarter hour, not taking this entire stop set and placing it right smack dab in the middle of a quarter hour and making it very difficult for a listener, if they were inclined to tune out when commercials come on, to actually rack up the minimum of 5 minutes of listening required within any quarter hour to gain credit for the entire 15 minutes. So this is a great way to be able to see, are we doing what we sat down and sketched out on paper that we thought was a great plan? Are we efficient within the cluster? Okay. I mean, it's not uncommon to say, hey, we got two stations that share some fume. Let's make sure one of them is playing music at any given time. What's my competitor doing? Do I have the advantage over them? And so on and so forth.
So let's step back for a second. I mean, I think we're all used to seeing linear scrolling logs, but when we build clocks, we tend to think in terms of quarter hours. And, you can always tell the really very good PDs because they can draw a perfect circle.
Right.
And so as we make those pie charts with slices that represent music and spots, does that work?
Yeah. I mean, think back to when you were a little kid, or when you've got kids and they watch those shows on Netflix with Coco Melon or whatever. The first thing they teach kids are shapes and colors, not how to read a spreadsheet. And that follows us the rest of our life. I mean, that's how we absorb information. So yeah, I mean, we draw clocks, we draw a circle, we put in wedges that represent specific content types, and we put colors in that we associate with them. So here I can take all these logs and express them in a more compelling fashion. So here what I've got is the two stations. I can pick, any two of the six that I've got in this competitive arena. Okay. A little anonymizing going on here. That's not actually WBBB or WAAA. And scroll through and compare and look. So simultaneously, what's happening here is I'm progressing through this log, but instead of seeing a bunch of rows and a bunch of text characters, I'm seeing circles, and I'm seeing M is music, and the gray is the other, the talk, and the red, these are the stop sets. And I can get some sense of, if this is me and this is my competitor, or if this is me and this is my sister station, am I accomplishing my goals? I mean, first, am I, placing the spots where I want them to be? Is that actually coming off as it should? Or, am I counter programming as I would hope I could? We can see where one station is red and the other station is red at the same time. If these two stations are in the same cluster, that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, I find myself, um, sitting down and thinking about particular situations where I've used this program of late, and somehow a PD missed an hour, and the stop sets weren't where we thought they were, or traffic messed up and didn't get the clocks built the way we wanted, or a competitor made a move and now they've moved their stop set before us, or if we're bow tie their hourglass.
Mhm.
Those things I think are valuable. And seeing two stations head to head, that works not only for your own cluster, but against your competition.
Yeah.
And so when we look at that and we can see both stations are ran in the same hour at the same time, exactly how often are those two cume sharing?
Mhm.
And what does that look like? Can you figure that out from this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm scrolling through these circles and picking up on a pattern here and going, whoa, these stations aren't supposed to be read at the same time. It'd be great to be able to see that all at one time. I mean, I'm really big on painting a picture and the power of visualization when it comes to communicating and sharing a scenario or a concept. And so a great deal of emphasis in the program is placed on the ability to create, save, share anything. And so in this case, I'm going to say, all right, you know what? I want to see an entire day or an entire week of two stations head to head. There's 6 8 to midnight. I'm going to look at Monday here. All right. And oh, that's great because I have PowerPoint open. Sorry about that. And what it can do is it can export all those circles right out to PowerPoint, and I can look at them all on one grid. Now I'm looking at these clocks, and as you asked, one thing I might want to do is say, okay, quantify that for me. For example, I get a sense that those two stations maybe are red at the same time. Maybe one's red when the other's green. I really want to know exactly how much is happening. So like in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take two stations and say, hey, when one of them is airing spots and the other is airing spots, and I'm looking at Monday through Friday, and I'm going to exclude morning show just because that's a different animal, but just look at 10A to 7P, the music day parts. Well, asked and answered. So when WBBB is airing spots, then WFFF is airing spots at the same time 33% of the time. Now, let's assume that these two stations are sister stations in the same cluster. Maybe it's an AC and a hot AC, or a hot AC and a CHR, or something like that. I've seen worse than this, but still, this can be better. I mean, this is saying that if you've got one station and they go into spots and somebody's inclined to go, oh, well, I'm going to flip over to my second favorite station, and they go to your other station, this says that 1/3 of the time they're going to encounter a commercial on your other station too. And if they're the kind that's inclined to tune out when the spot comes on, they're probably just going to keep punching and get to your competitor. So this tells us that we can probably do a better job of getting those two stations out of their way over the course of the week, without screwing up other priorities like straddling or whatever. But this is telling us exactly how often that is happening.
So then let me ask this. Let's flip it and say, I can see my station and my competitor in music at the same time.
Mhm.
I can see with their commercials at the same time. Are you able to look at it in kind of a head to head? I mean, there's many times as programmers, I've sat in rooms with people who would go,
Right.
we're winning the battle today. This one's better than that, or we're back into music before them. And so
Right.
you're saying with this, I can see that any day, anytime, holidays,
Mhm.
as often as I want, whenever I want.
Yeah, I mean, let's assume that this station here is my competitor, and I got some basic questions like, okay, how often when I'm in spots are they in spots? Okay, boom, asked and answered. And what I see here is it's only 10% of the time that we're playing commercials at the same time, which is it's unusual, because despite being competitors, they're obviously not comparing notes and agreeing to any plan, but they do a very good job of staying out of each other's way. And I think it's worth noting that, well, not planned, this is very good for the format segment there locally. I mean, we all know that listeners hate when their two favorite stations are both playing commercials at the same time. I mean, I've seen so many focus groups where listeners are convinced it's a conspiracy to force them to listen to ads. And in this scenario, if they're inclined to tune out when a spot is played, they almost always have another place to go that is on the radio dial, and that helps keep listening levels up instead of driving them to another medium, or just have them go, you know what, I'm going to call my boyfriend or whatever. So this is actually a good scenario where you've got two competing stations and there's always a choice between the two of them. Okay.
I like that. And so you're saying
Yeah.
because of the practice of us putting commercials in lower PUR hours, we can see if we're accomplishing that, if we're playing music in the hours that are the biggest. I used
Yeah.
to always look at it like a swimming pool, right? If you had a big group of people who are going to be walking by a swimming pool, and I knew that they like the color blue, and I had the watercolor blue as they walk by, they would stick around and hang around a little bit longer. And as they walked out, if this new group that's coming in likes the color green, then I slowly move my swimming pool over to that green color. And so using that pool analogy,
Mhm.
does this do that?
That's interesting. I mean, I have this sudden urge to go swimming, but
Yeah.
I, I mean, yes, I think it enables you to, have it, optimize on multiple levels. One, the basic need is to optimize your content placement for the scoring system. So again, you want to do things like bow tie straddle, split the pane across quarter hours, make sure you don't plop a big stop sign in the middle of a quarter hour and make it impossible for anybody to accumulate 5 minutes of listening in the quarter hour. No time to do it before or after. There's the recovery time and all that stuff. That's important. That's probably job one in a vacuum. Then number two is, hey, let's look at what the other guys are doing, because people are bouncing back and forth, and let's try and have and hold the advantage. If we feel that we've got a better product, then I want to be in music as often as possible when those guys are in spots, because I want them to comparison shop. I want them to come over and go, this is great. I got no reason to leave. Okay. And vice versa. There's only so much you can do because you're turning 3 different knobs and levers all at once. But, here's an instance where, okay, when we're in spots, how often is my competitor in music? All right. Well, this says that it's a lot. Okay. It's almost 84% of the time. If I'm playing spots and somebody punches out, they go to the bad guys, they're going to get a song. Okay. I can flip that around and say, all right, well, what's it like the other way? All right, when I'm in, when they're in spots, how often am I in music? And it's about 80% of the time. So what you saw with those two stations, where they were kind of out of commercials or not playing commercials at the same time, which is good for the whole segment. Here, they're essentially in music about 80% of the time. Those two kind of go hand in hand. But we've seen some uglier battles where you've got stations that just chase each other around the clock and refuse to get out of each other's way. And I think it can be very destructive. And it's fatiguing for the listeners because you give them no choices. You're always in commercials at the same time. You're always playing songs at the same time. And again, they feel like there's some kind of conspiracy afoot there.
So here's the next question then,
Mhm.
because I think we all often as programmers sit down and think about, what our stop set, what our commercial placement strategy is going to be. But success depends on running those commercial breaks at the right times.
Mhm.
Running early or late can throw everything off. How do I capture that?
Well, here's like a summary table, okay? And this is showing, let me zoom in on this a little bit. This is showing, taking that quarter hour data and lining it up, and then showing the amount of content, each of the three types of content on every station. And this is looking at a 5-day average. Now we can look at just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the stations head to head, or we can look at an individual station, individual day. But to smooth out the bumps from day to day, what we can see is here's Monday to Friday, add it all up and average it. And this says that between 6 and 6:15, this station here, over the course of the 5 days, 7 minutes of that 15 is spots, 4:10 is music, and 4 minutes is other talk, service elements, etc. Well, with this, you can easily spot these big empty gaps where there's no spots, and that's where a station has cleared out the inventory and is focusing entirely on music or content or both. Now this is morning drive. Let's go to an example of something that's okay. So they're out of morning drive, and now they're trying to play the more music game during the music day part. And you can see what happens here. Out of these 15 minutes, you've got well over 14 minutes. This is a big nonstop block of an hour of music. You go over here and you look at this station here, and this is essentially saying that every day at 9 o'clock, they clear out the inventory. You've got over 2.5 hours of nonstop music with essentially next to no interruption. I mean, even their other is so small that the sweepers are really coming in and bang, 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 quick ID, no slowdown. But you can see what happens once that's over. You got to pay for it. So here's a 15-minute quarter hour, and 10.5 minutes are spots. But it's the price of doing business. But here, what stations are doing is they're looking at these quarter hours and going, okay, this is where the listening levels kind of go up. I'm going to take my best shot and try and own that with more music, and then maybe go back and pay for it in a quarter hour that dips a little bit. But you can see what happens. And it's pretty much similar in most markets is, we've got those big quarter hours once people roll out of bed, and then it dips around 9, and then it picks up a little bit around lunchtime. And then it really picks up here, 3 o'clock. You got your number one quarter hour with persons. 3:30, it's a tie. So what do stations do? They go, oh, well, we got to absolutely take advantage of this. Okay. So this is what stations are doing. And everybody's playing the game. And there's another way to see it too. This here is a heat map. Okay. So what we see here is all the stations, and we've got every hour, and this is Monday, Friday, totals and averages. And then this is each minute within the hour, minutes 1 through 60. And I click the M button. And now what it's showing me is how much music, how often, this is a percentage, what percent of the time in this minute did this station play music? And this is saying that 100% of the time in the 18th minute, the 6 a.m. hour, this station plays music. And basically what you see when there's these dark solid stretches of green, that means they're always in music over the course of the week. Now, what's more relevant to our conversation is now I click C, and now what I'm seeing is commercials. Okay. And so essentially what this thing here is a stop set. And it looks like it kind of runs at the bottom of the hour. It straddles the second and third quarter hour. It's very dark red here, more or less. It's kind of pink and a little diffuse here. I mean, we've got a thing that is goes from 23 to 38 Okay, so it's like it's got a 15-minute footprint from beginning to end, but we know that's not a 15-minute stop set. So what this means is this is a stop set that sometimes starts early and ends early, sometimes starts late and ends late. And just being off by a few minutes can really screw up your plan, because maybe it means that that whole stop set fell in this quarter hour and it didn't accomplish the straddling goal. Maybe if it runs late, it means that you're not pre-stopping your competitor. But the key here is to be able to go in and say, okay, let me see what really happened here. So I click and drag and let go. And now what it does is it takes me to the log, and I can see the 5 instances of this bottom of the hour, 10 a.m. stop set on this station. And so this yellow box is the footprint, the 5-day footprint for that break. And it goes, like I said, all the way from here to here. It's 15 minutes long, but we can see that this is essentially like an 8-minute stop set with maybe 10 units. But this is what happened on Monday. It started a little early. Okay. I click down and it goes to the next one. And here it started a little late, but it still does the straddling thing. Here, pretty much spot on, no pun intended. Likewise here. And then here's Friday. So I've seen instances that are worse, where sometimes you see a break that's only 6 minutes long, and this big yellow box starts way over here, goes way down here, because the stop set sometimes starts here and ends here. And sometimes it starts here and ends here, or way down here. And again, like I said, that can throw everything off if getting in and getting out is essential to your strategy.
And so lastly, in regard to the commercials, I know what my spot load is. Exactly how many spots are my competitors airing?
Well, good question. And here we are again. Make this a little bigger. And this is just simple count. Okay. So here's my station, and it's showing me how many units I played over the course of, a day or a week. I want to look at totals or averages. This is the number of 30s. This is the number of 60s. This will catch me oddball spots. Okay. See number of units, number of songs. And of course, again, you can see when stations are playing the PUR game. This is based on hour. Here's your most listened to hour, essentially, for most of the demos. And you can see, some stations decide to, okay, here this station is playing most of the spots here, and then getting music heavy down here the next hour. This station is going up. You know what? We're gonna take our best shot at the 3 o'clock hour, and then pay for it later. So also in this, you can see relative inventory loads. How many units by length, how many songs. I mean, that's an important thing. Are we playing as many songs as we said we could? What this is all about is guys sit down, they create great plans on paper, and then they say, okay, let's go into the music scheduling system. We're going to build all these clocks. And they do all that and they check it. Maybe it kind of changes by 5 or 10%. It just doesn't always translate from paper to punching in those software, things when you're building it in Select or Music Master, whatever. And then somebody's scheduling those logs every day and editing them. And that's another place where it can change. Oh, too much music. I got to flip these because of tempo or whatever. And then it goes into the studio, and, maybe automation takes hold and a song gets dropped automatically, or the jock drops a song or goes, this one's long, I'm going to flip these 2 and all that. There's about 4 ways within the process every day that your perfect plan can go from paper to something that is kind of a distant relative of that perfect plan. And what this is all about is going, hey, we know what we said we wanted to do. And if we do that, we think we're going to win. But here's what's really coming out of the speakers and what's really happening. And again, sometimes these song count numbers are lower than we wanted. The placement of the spots is not where we wanted it to be. And the competitors are not doing what we thought they were doing or wanted them to do. How dare they? So again, this is kind of the ability to verify everything, but also see it in a very clear, easy to absorb way. And I'm big on the empowerment thing. Instead of just taking all that burden upon yourself to know what's going on every single minute of every day and have to make a decision, you've got valued team members and be able to share this with them, enlighten them. And then it's not just do this, dictate, don't do this, don't do that, and just listen to me. But instead it's, we're better off if we do this. Oh, I see why. I get it. All right. And they can make intelligent decisions. If they need to drop a song, if they need to move something, they know why it's better off here than there.
One of the things that I suspect many of the women and men who are program directors um, on our little seminar today are asking is about the music. We have a well thought out strategy for music, a well crafted plan, and the question becomes, does it match actual airplay? And I know that that's, what you drill down on and look at with airplay GPS. And so talk to us about the music part of this. Talk to us about the music program and how I take what I just saw in regard to how much music I play to the actual music I play and where I play it.
Right, right. Here, just give me 1 second here, if you would. Sorry, look at the wrong program.
No
I'm gonna
problem.
close this, bing, do that. All right. And then I guess I need to reshare my screen. Can you see anything on the screen?
Yeah, we see an Excel sheet opening up.
Oh, okay, great. All right, stop video, start video. Great, thank you. All right. So, think of like an iPad, an iPhone. They have a lot of the same, uh, you know, features and functions. They overlap considerably, but one of them really is good at something, and another one's really good at another, and they really make good companion tools. And so, AirPlay GPS is the music focused version of what Spot GPS does, and and like a content plan, it's important to go, okay, we got a great music plan, we did a perceptual, we came up with the perfect plan to do whatever it is we want to accomplish in the market. Now we need to make sure that it's actually coming off as we planned. So same thing here, I can take up to 9 stations, put them side by side. This is either media base or BDS data, whichever you subscribe to, 7 days consecutively in there, and look at all these stations in any particular order. And what it does is it takes those logs that you find BDS or media base and transforms them. Like I said, I think color is very uh, a big part of making an impact, and it's compelling, and people remember colors and shapes more often than they do a bunch of 4-digit numbers. So here's your era, color coded era anywhere you want. I mean, if you feel that brown is 70s and that's the way you think, then great, it can be that way. Current, recurrent, gold. The rank of the gold within the format panel. I mean, I go in and I grab all the stations, add up all the spins, create a ranker, and give you a consensus compass of what songs are really low risk, slam dunk home runs, and which ones are higher risk. Not don't get as much spins, not within the format, are less familiar, just don't do well. Okay. Percentage of stations in that format panel who are playing the song in normal rotation. So that's another way to look at it. And if you have local music testing, this sucks that in. And this is, of course, always going to give you an advantage over national data, but it's great to have this and then have this as a backstop. But bring in a music test, for example, total, core, cum, and you can see every song as you're going through the log. And I know that you can do this in some level in music scheduling programs, but it's a real pain in the butt. And I've seen very, very few PDs who actually take the time to enter in all that data and then be able to edit a log this way. Well, this tells you, hey, we've got those primary, secondary categories. Why the heck do we actually have this song that was in the bottom 500 of the music test way over here, and then next to a song that is relatively weak or untested. So, and then sound codes, so you can see how the building blocks of your station are sequencing. Your question was basically, what does it all look like when it comes out of the speakers? Well, here you need to be able to see that on multiple levels. So here's current, recurrent, gold. So you can look at any station, look at it by day part. This might be me, this might be my competitor, create the custom day part and see if in fact the breakout looks like, I mean, you can look at a station and go, hey, media base or BDS said 6 a.m. to midnight, we're spot on with current, recurrent, gold. Well, is that a little bit lumpy within the day parts? Is it actually coming along like you want? Maybe you're newer at night. Is it happening that way? And the ability to be able to see anything, graphically. Some people will see this and go, oh, I get it immediately, as opposed to looking at numbers like that. So there's current, recurrent, gold. Era is another big part of the puzzle. Same thing. Create your eras and make sure that, I mean, look, if you're a classic hit station here and your success, you feel, depends on at least 2/3 of your music coming from this 10-year era, then this will verify that in fact, oh yeah, this is happening the way it should. What you want to make sure is that it's coming off like it should, and that nobody else in town is actually eclipsing that. I mean, if you look here and go, this is our core era and it's 50%, but these guys are now at 60%, and they're making a play for you. And that's something that you really need to know and you want to address as soon as possible, or decide that no, it's not relevant and decide not to act. And even get more granular. Here you are by year, by individual year. This says that this station here, 13% of its airplay was from 1984. And when we're targeting a hyper narrow demo, we often say, hey, this is their music. We want to make sure that the bulk of our music, that bell curve, maybe at least 50%, is coming from a nice tight 10-year span that speaks to the year they graduated and their formative years before and just after, because that's when memories are made. Well, you can see here that this station, 74% of its airplay comes from just those 10 years, and so on and so forth. You can see how focused and concentrated stations are. I mean, if these are two stations that are in the same cluster, is it a concern that there's that degree of overlap? Or if this is a competing station and they used to be over here and now they're creeping up on me, what does that mean for me? That means they're making a play for, my prime stuff. And it's helpful to be able to look at, any of those two stations, in a number of ways and see it and go, okay, that's something we need to talk about, something we need to worry about. And other things like basic song count, how many songs per hour are we playing within a day part or within every hour, and so on and so forth. So in sound code, anybody who's done a perceptual knows that you get this list of, here's all the sounds, here's the building blocks for, now let's build a strategy. Here's our A sounds, our B sounds, and our C sounds. Well, go through and you code all these and then determine that in fact, yeah, at least 50% of our airplay is coming from our A sounds. That's good, because this basically should be an inverse pyramid. At least 50%, then a little less for the B's, a little bit for the C's, and then you've got those no sounds that you shouldn't be playing at all. But this is a way to line up the entire competitive arena and see if you're owning what's important to you and if anybody else is making a play for it and how much overlap there is within your cluster. Maybe you can better optimize that.
And so this comes back to what I'd said before about those days when a program director would sit between two radios. You're able to look at the scores and see the strength of my music versus my competitor's music. And so I'm guessing this shows a whole week, a day part.
Mm-hmm.
And does it get as granular down to this quarter hour versus a competitor's quarter hours?
Yeah, I mean, I can look at individual day here, or I can say, let me see all of Monday through Friday, or just Saturday, Sunday. But so, yeah, I mean, that's really pulling back the camera. But maybe what I want to do, I mean, I think that this is, I always wish that there was a way in any music scheduling system to, not just line up all the hours end to end and have to scroll through, because you can't remember what you saw once you get past that hour that you just hit page down. And the ability to place them all side by side and just lean back in your chair and see how it all comes together. So here's, I call it the grid. So here's an entire day. This is Tuesday. Here's 6 a.m. to midnight, hour by hour, position by position. So what you're seeing here is full day, averages by hour on top. So here's the average year for the 6 a.m. hours, 2011.9. The 7 a.m. hours, 2007.5. And then it's 2007, 2006. Well, you look at this station, you look at the overall Monday, Friday, and the average year is about 2006 and a half. And you go, oh, that's exactly where we want it to be. Well, is it a concern that out of the gate, your first hour is actually 6 hours or 6 years newer than that? And you look here and you see that this hour is pretty new. I mean, you look at the color coding and the really new songs are black on white or white on black. And you see here that you got a current, you got a recurrent, you got a recurrent, the recurrent, current, and so on and so forth. And that's not, so this might be, is it in the editing? Is it songs got dropped and the ones that got dropped were gold? Something got grabbed from another hour, miscue, whatever. But if every minute is important, every event is important to you because of a potential win or a loss against your competitor, then this stuff is important. Getting down to, the song to song essence of your station. And the cool thing is once you kind of see this and identify it, you can paint a picture of this. Just take a snapshot, and go to whoever's scheduling logs and say, I saw this. Well, how did this happen? Figure out where in the process it went astray, fix it. I mean, it might be a simple code in your scheduling system. It might be, oh, I edited that, I put that in there. Don't do that. Or it might be, here's what the log looked like before it went in the studio. It's perfect. Okay. You go talk to the personality and go, did you? Yeah, I don't know. It felt like that would fit there. Don't do that, because now here we're a CHR as opposed to, a hot AC or whatever. So this allows you to see it and see it on multiple levels. Here's the year, and I can click this button here and overlay on top of it, current, recurrent, and gold, and see simultaneously on multiple levels, which songs are current, recurrent, gold, what their year is, which ones are image artists, tempo, sound priority, all those sound codes, or A, B, C, or N. Well, I can see what's going on multiple levels. And again, look at each individual hour and each individual position or quarter hour and say, hey, does every listening experience, is it fairly consistent? If somebody comes in and listens to this much of the station the first quarter hour, and then their buddy goes and listens to this part of the hour, and then they compare notes, they're going to come up with a different conclusion. This station's kind of new. Yeah, no, they're really old. No, okay, well, that's because the gravy's a little lumpy and it needs to be better stirred. So the devil's in the details, and this gives you the ability to, and when I say this gives you the ability, I'm not trying to necessarily, this, but what we're trying to do here is enumerate the questions that I think need to be asked that are sometimes inconvenient and tedious, but once you fix something, it never happens again, essentially. And then you've made the product that much better. And it's a bunch of simple improvements like that that can really take you from doing okay to, all right, it's ours to lose.
I know that when we worked together, we would call a part of this a blood test, because it let us see very quickly what was going on. So with these two programs, how does this save time, improve ratings, or maintain ratings? And how does it strengthen the product? What's the application?
Well, I don't tell people what to do or how to, oh, you need to play more Led Zeppelin or less Pink Floyd or whatever. I like to think of it as, there was a guy once who said, I don't want to do your taxes, but I invented TurboTax. And it takes that process and makes it far, far, far easier. It's kind of, what are the questions I need to answer? Okay, how many dependents do I have? Boom, 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 boom. Keep going, pull up all your receipts, and then here's how much you get back, or here's how much you owe. And it can be incredibly easy given how complex the system and the data is. Well, same thing here. We have so many disparate sources. I mean, these services are great. BDS, Mediabase, Media Monitors, Nielsen, it's all fabulous. It's an orgy of data, and it's not, oh, there's not enough info out there. It's like the internet. When you Google something, it's not you don't get any answers. It's you get 5 million answers, and you go, where do I start? This takes it and filters out the noise and brings it all into the relevant, the high impact, and the actionable. If it's not those three, then it's a waste of time. It's a waste of your time. I mean, anybody who sits there and says, oh, well, I learned this about what we're doing. Okay, how do we act on that? Well, I just thought it was interesting. Okay, it's a waste of time. This allows you to narrow the focus and go, okay, we're a PPM station. We have a plan. We want to optimize our credit. We want to outsmart our competitor, and we want to optimize within our cluster. I need to know where my commercials and music sweeps are running with a high degree of accuracy. I need to know on a consistent basis so I can implement my plan, course correct, watch it bake, go back and look and see if my changes, if I've gotten better and more accurate. And in fact, if my competitors have reacted, and then repeat. I mean, that's just the nature of the game. Likewise with music, if you don't get this right, nothing else matters. I mean, $1,000 an hour cash giveaways, great personalities, trip giveaways, all that stuff that we hope to be doing again soon. It's all great, but this is the gatekeeper. If you don't absolutely nail, your calling, your brand essence, what makes you special in the market, and deliver on what the listener expectations are, then all that other stuff doesn't matter. So this gives you that ability to sleep at night and go, okay, I think that's the big casualty. Mike and I found this out together, is so many guys spent so much time investing so many brain cells in coming up with the perfect plan, but then 30, 60, 90 days later and throughout, the next year, very little effort was put into, let's make sure that it looks exactly as it should. And instead, what would happen is when they get a bad book or trend or whatever, then the house would be on fire. And then it was, oh, quick, we need a deep dive. This is about being proactive. This is about going to the doctor and saying, hey, I feel great. Just check everything out and make sure that there's nothing I need to worry about.
We're gonna open it up to questions here in a
Yeah.
second. If anyone has questions, if you put the cursor down on the bottom of the screen, you will see it says chat. And certainly you can ask your questions in there. In the meantime, so what do you provide? Let's pretend that I reach out to Benztown and Masa Patterson signs me as a client. Um, what do you provide in the way of content? You teach us an example. I mean, what I'm sure you don't just, because having worked with you, I know you don't just drop a bag on the desk and walk away. And this is intimidating, to be honest. So what do you provide and how do you work with people?
I think it is at first because there's so much to absorb here. But once you get, then it's like, I get it. It's like anything, first time, and then muscle memory kicks in, and then I got this. Leave me alone. I'll call you if I need you. But I mean, I was a programmer and then a consultant, and I think I found my calling in that I like to teach and learn, collaborate, and empower. We didn't get to half the slides I had in my little thing, and I used the word empowerment about 15 times because I think it's essential to, find the people you trust on your team and engage them, enlighten them, and go, here's why we're doing what we're doing, and then they go, oh, I get it now. I'm not in the dark. It's not command and control. Just do this, shut up, and don't ask any questions. It's, I get it. I'm contributing to the effort. Well, this is about being able to paint the pictures and tell stories and go, here's why we need to do this. And then people go, oh, I get it. So these all came into being because I wanted to help that process, help facilitate that. For my clients, people who use this, it's like, okay, great. The Spot GPS, we love it. We're a PPM station. Great. Are you media monitors client? Yes. Great. I take your data, I put it in there, get these reports on a regular basis, and then we talk about it if you want. Some people are real quick studies and they're like, oh, I totally get it. Great. I'll call you if I need you. Other people are like, hey, let's walk through this, or I'm sensing that this is happening, or these guys seem to make a move. And again, I don't walk that line where I'm not, necessarily saying, oh, this is what we should do, but I will tell you how to maximize the opportunity and interpret what you're seeing here. Likewise with the AirPlay GPS, with the music, it's fairly simple because, like, again, you come up with these plans and you say, this is what we should look like. Here's what a perfect hour looks like sketched out on paper. And then we put it in the music scheduling system. We edit logs. Well, here's what's actually coming out of the speakers. Does this look like what you wanted? Is this the perfect representation of your vision for the station? And if not, let's figure out where it differs. Let's paint a picture. Let's identify an absolutely perfect hour. I mean, maybe it's a matter of going, ooh, yeah, that hour sucks, but this one is absolutely perfect. Great. Let's take this, show it to everybody involved and go, we need to do this. This is great for these reasons. The era is balanced perfectly. We don't get too deep into the red with regards to our home format. We've got a little bit of pull with our adjacent format. The research, this is great. We're always coming back to a primary song. The sound codes, we don't dwell too far in one of them. We always get back, kind of mix it up. So I'm really about making it collaborative and trying to discern what people's goals are, and then say, well, here's how you can use this to get there. So much easier and so much quicker. I mean,
one of the questions that's popped up is this applicable to only in PPM markets, or does it work in diary markets?
Yeah, I see that. The Spot GPS with pie charts and all that, it's pretty much going to be for while they do monitor some diary markets and that data is there. I don't know any diary stations that are subscribing to that because, okay, why do we need that? So pretty much not for the Spot GPS. That's pretty much a PPM market thing. This here, if you're monitored by, whichever service you use, then yeah, it's for you. I mean, it can work for you. Um, so the audience data part is Nielsen PPM. It's very flexible in that if you wanted to, for example, here where these columns show music scores, if you wanted to put AQH data in here, just have a running scrolling snapshot of how the audience is changing and come up with some visual pattern of how the audience is fluctuating throughout the day and how it seems to be syncing up with what you're doing at particular times of the day, then yeah, that could totally happen. Ultimately, they're all a bunch of numbers, and we can bend them to our will and sync them up
So
with the events.
the answer is yes.
Yeah.
The AirPlay GPS, the music program, is
Mm,
applicable to diary
yeah.
markets, and I know we used it in diary markets in Cumulus as well as to the metered markets.
Yeah.
Um, do you have to be a media monitor subscriber? Is a question, and I believe the answer is yes if you want spot GPS.
Yeah. I'm not, I'm not giving access to any proprietary data. I mean, I have relationships with BDS, media monitors, media base. They're all fabulous and they're wonderful to me. And our understanding is that, hey, you know what? If somebody's a subscriber, this makes our service all the more valuable. We love what you're doing. That's great. So yes, you have to. I'm not granting access to anything that you don't already have. Likewise, with the AirPlay GPS, if you're a BDS or a media-based customer, then which one are you using? Okay, great. I'll access that data and use that for our analysis.
Okay, good, very good. Any other questions anybody has before we put a bow on this? If any of you are interested in having a one-on-one with Ralph, if you will email Masa Patterson, MP, like Masa Patterson, MP at Benztown, BENZTOWN.com. Masa can put you together with Ralph for whatever question you may have. And, Ralph, thank you very much for spending the time with us today and for, putting all of this together. I appreciate it. You exceeded my wildest expectations. This was excellent.
No, thank you. Thank you. No, this is great. Great to see so many names and faces, and we're all kind of coming out of our shells here again. And, I appreciate the opportunity and to be asked. And, if I can make your life easier and make you better at what you do, love to talk about that. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. We'll let you have the rest of the day back.